Hi everyone, my name is Wana and you are welcome to Culture Diaries. Now on this edition of the show, my guest is an award-winning filmmaker and her film, Kassala, is also a toast in festivals all around the world. Join me as I welcome Ema Edosio-Deelen. Hi Emma.
Hi Wana.
Welcome to Culture Diaries.
Thank you.
And thank you so much for allowing me to your home, by the way.
Thank you for coming.
So you have had an amazing year, previously 2018, yeah. So I'm sure 2019 will be equally amazing as well. Mm-hmm. But I want to go back. So I met you like 10 years ago when you were working with Clarence Peters. Mm-hmm. And I want to know first of all, did you know that you wanted to eventually move into film? That's the first question. I think the second thing I want to ask you is, what did that working in that environment have? What impact did that have on the work that you're doing now?
I think that in the beginning I was just excited about being in the film space, music video space. There was this new movement with Sonny Neji, Tolo Tolo, P-Square, and I was fascinated by this movement. And I was just very excited to be in this space. And gradually I was sort of learning and finding what exactly that I wanted to do. So I tried out everything. I started out from a production assistant, then worked my way up, was very interested in editing the camera, and then I just discovered that, okay, I wanted to be a director after like 6 years of being in the industry. And I would never trade my experience with Clarence Peters. I think it taught me to be strong. Just watching Clarence alone work is sort of like an inspiration, and it made a big impression on me as a young filmmaker, because he's very hardworking. He will come back from shooting and then sit and finish the music video in one sitting. So it taught me to think out of the box. It taught me to be hardworking. It taught me to understand every aspect of filmmaking, to be able to, especially in this environment, to maintain the quality of your work. And I think that working with Clarence at that period made a very strong impression on me as to work ethics and the beauty of cinematography, and that was what happened to me that period. Yeah.
Technically as well, what impact did that have on you in terms of your technical abilities?
In terms, I was, it was working there. You're working with one of the best in the industry, and you will see him create something beautiful out of nothing. And it taught me to start looking and asking questions. I became very curious about lenses. I became very curious about cameras, and I was asking a lot of questions. And seeing him create made me start trying out things, because I started taking out cameras and taking out young musicians and shooting. And then I began to understand the basics of the technical aspect of cinematography and lighting, and I think it was the start of something amazing for me, at that point. And
then it's also interesting to me that you went through this, you actually said that you were making music videos yourself as well.
Yes.
And then you went to film school.
Yes.
And what was because some people would say, if you're going to film school to come back to Nigeria where things aren't, fully formed, what's the point of getting all this, all this international skill coming back to, to the same thing again. So what was that thing that prompted you to decide I wanted to go to film school?
I noticed that Clarence could take a light bulb and recreate something beautiful. And I could take that light bulb and create something according to his specification, what he did at that moment. But I said to myself that I wanted to get my foundations right. I needed to go back to school to learn. In Nigeria, we value international certificates, and I wanted to go out to not just get my foundations, but to get, unfortunately, this certificate that would set me above, other people. Coming back to Nigeria, why did I decide to come back to Nigeria? I was lucky enough to have started in the industry, and I knew that there was a big opportunity. Something was happening in Nigeria, and I didn't want to miss out on it. Yes, film school abroad, going to school abroad is fun. You hang out, bar hopping, you're in that space with young people. Yeah. But if you look at it, I remember that I'd finished from film school and I went to the Academy of Arts, San Francisco. And after a week of bar hopping with friends, I looked closely and I said, if I stay here, I'm going to continue doing this for 4 years. But if I go back to Nigeria, there's something happening. There's a growing industry and there's a need for talent. And I just woke up the next day and said I was going to come back home. In fact, everybody, I didn't tell my family that I was coming back home. I told them I got a job in Nigeria. Because they would have said this girl is absolutely crazy. So I packed up all my stuff and I went to the admin office and I said I was leaving. And she said, "Are you crazy?" She thought I was going to run away, and she was like asking for my passport, my return ticket. And I submitted it and I came back to Lagos. But I felt there was a big impression on my spirit to come back to Nigeria, and that there was something happening. So I moved back to Lagos, and I think it was the best decision that I ever made. Yeah.
So was there any interesting reality checks for you? Because I think that tends to happen with a lot of people. You know, you go abroad, there's this idealism that happens where, like, I'm going to do this and I'm going to come back. Was there any, like, reality checks when you came back to Lagos that it was like, okay, you know, some things are not the way you think it's going to be? Were there any moments like that for you?
No, I think working in the industry in the beginning prepared me for that. I started as a production assistant in fact, I was the playback girl. You know, it was fun. It was a beautiful experience. But I had gone through the process of growth, and I understood that in the beginning it was going to be tough. So I understood that process. And, you know, I from there, I started doing weddings with all the knowledge I'd gotten, and that was able to sustain me through the hard times. So I knew coming back, I needed to find something to sustain me while I wanted to become a filmmaker. So I understood the process, and I was ready for it. And there was no reality check. It was just like, okay. There were moments where I was really sad and depressed, but I knew what I was expected to do because of my experience before going to film school. So that was easy for me.
I think that's very interesting for me as well, because a lot of young people, when they go into film, there's this sort of this airy-fairy idea that, oh, I'm just going to make my first film or do this, and the next thing, everything is going to roll. I'm just going to be a filmmaker. I'm making tons of money. And it's interesting because I've seen you filming weddings. I've seen you doing videography, you know, for events and festivals. Like, I feel like you've done every and anything. You've made low budget music videos, all kinds of things. But something else that you've also done that I feel like a lot of people don't know is you've also made art videos. Yeah. So we worked together on Wura Ogunji's project. And I want to know, because I think you were immersed in that space for a while as well, when you were working with performance artists, documenting their work that would go into galleries and museums. And I want to know what that brought to your practice.
I think working in that space opened my eyes to reality. With film, everything is you can say cut and reorganize and rearrange. I think that working in that space made me spontaneous. You have to capture things in the moment. And then, you know, I began to see real emotions. It's very interesting working with artists. They're very expressive, they're very intuitive, and it taught me how to capture this moment. And I brought that into my films, and that is why sometimes my films feel like documentaries, like you're just observing the characters. So I think I would never trade off that space, because from there I learned how to be spontaneous. I learned how to observe. I learned how to just make the camera an observer and follow these people in their world, and that really helped me a lot in filmmaking. Yeah.
Well, now let's move into Kassala, which did you expect that it was going to do as well as it did?
No, I did not expect that it was going to do anything. I made Kassala with a vengeance. Like, I said to myself, I'm fortunate enough to have been making works for Ebony Light TV. But as a filmmaker, something just kept telling me, you need to build your voice. You need to stand out. And there was this thing in me that was pushing me, this story that kept pushing at me. And I said, okay, enough, I'm just going to make this. And I just went about borrowing money, asking people for money, and I bought everything together and I created Kassala. It was refused in the beginning. It was one of the hardest things that I had to do, because not just raising the money, also
it was refused by who? It
was refused by, when I made the film, it was refused by Film One. I submitted it to Film One, and they said, oh, this is not for our target audience. You know, we feel it's too boring, and then our audience would walk out. I looked at the email, and it was a break in my heart. I submitted it to Silverbread, and they said it was too artsy. But
so these are the cinemas.
Yes, the cinemas.
Who
yes,
know what we're talking about.
They said it was too artsy. But the lady in charge, Rosanna, called me back and said, take this film and submit it into Film Festival. festivals. It looks like something that they would like. And I had no idea what film festivals were, honestly. I just knew that, there was something called film festivals. But I didn't think I had a chance. I thought you had to make like a big budget $200,000 film to be able to get into a film festival. Yeah. And I was like, okay. And I submitted it to the first one, Nollywood Week Paris. And that was where it just started traveling all around the world, and I was really amazed by the success of it.
But I mean, how does it make you feel where you're technically rejected at home?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. And then your film is going around the world.
Yeah.
And they're like embracing this thing and they're loving it. And because I almost feel like I'm just trying to envision the emotions that you'd be going through in terms of the fact that you're excited you made this thing, you're excited that people love it, but then your people don't like it or don't want it. And I want to know how that felt for you.
I didn't think that my people didn't like it, because it actually opened in some film festivals in Nigeria, and I could see the reaction. I just feel like there's a system that does not want or allow the independent filmmakers to grow here, and which is sad. A system here that doesn't work for us. Seeing it travel around the world. Before Kassala got the success it had, I felt that my voice was invalid as a filmmaker. I felt like I had to make certain types of films and work with certain types of actors to be able to be able to create in this space. And it's like an echo chamber where someone screams and then everybody hears it, and that's all we hear. And seeing the success of Kassala out of the country and in certain festivals in Nigeria opened my eyes to see that, yes, Emma, your voice is valid. You're allowed and you're permitted to make the kind of works that you feel passionate about, and that there's a world bigger than just Nollywood. There's a world bigger than the gatekeepers, and there are other ways that you can find your audience. And it was a big eye opener for me. Yeah.
I mean, Kassala was an amazing film. I was just like, oh my gosh, this is incredible, this is amazing. And it's interesting you talk about finding your voice. I felt like when I watched it, and I think people that watched it as well at Lights Camera Africa, which was the film festival that it premiered at in Nigeria anyway, I feel like people who watched it as well felt the same way, that you had found your voice. What was your moment, the moment that made you decide, this is the film I want to make and I'm making it now? I know you did mention Abba's Green White Green was an influence for you, but I want you to sort of expand on that.
I think I watched Abba Makama's Green White Green at the Light Camera Africa Festival in 2016, I think, and it was amazing. It was like a breath of fresh air. And then I think I'd made a film, and it was about women, and it wasn't, even though I directed it, I was just very sad after the film, and I said, I want to make something that doesn't have women, that doesn't have makeup, hair, wardrobe, the American accent. I wanted to make something raw on the street. And that was the vengeance that I went into making Kassala. And the first thing that came to my mind was a broken down car and a boy who broke down this car, and then other characters started coming, and I started building the story from there. So Kassala was more of an anger of breaking from the norm of Nollywood, from the things that I've been creating, to something totally different. And that was the reason why I made Kassala. Abba Makama was an inspiration because I saw somebody do something different, and I said, okay, I want to do something different, and that was the reason why I made Kassala. Yeah.
Let's go into the technicalities of the film. So first of all, for those who haven't watched it, I want you to tell them what the film is about.
Okay. So Kassala is a story about a day in the life of 4 boys who live in Ojuelegba, one of the low-income areas of Nigeria. One of them steals his uncle's precious kabu, his precious car, and then they take it to a party and they end up wrecking the car. The story is about how they have to raise 20,000 naira in less than 6 hours to fix the car before the uncle gets back from the market. So it's everything that happens while trying to raise the money to fix the car. So I use that the task of raising the money to address issues that these boys face in their lives and issues in the slums. But it's not from a place of destitution. It's not from a place of sadness. It's from a place of showing the tenacity of Nigerians. It's actually my love story to Lagos. You know, everything is against you, but we always find a way to be happy, and at the end of the day, and that's the story behind Kassala.
I think that literally actually does encapsulate it. For me, it was such a story of resilience.
Yeah.
But there was so much joy in the film as well. And I want to talk about the actors that you chose, because the style of the acting is very naturalistic. The dialogue was very, very, very organic as well. And something that can be very difficult is when you have an ensemble cast, and oftentimes one person is showing up or showing off more than the other. But there's a interesting equilibrium that happens with all the actors, where they're all we feel and we see them, they're moving through this film together. For you as a director, what were the tricks that you employed to be able to create that cohesion?
I didn't have the budget to work with known faces, so I called for an audition, and I said the people who are interested and want to work with me will come. And I didn't call anybody. So the 4 boys walked into the room. They started coming one by one. I think they knew each other. They're like, hey, there's this audition. And the way that I posted the audition online, I said I wanted boys who looked from the ages of 18 to 25. Please, people with yam leg and beer should not come. So I think they found that very interesting. And they came together, and I made them read, and it was like my script came to life.
Yeah.
And I put all 4 of them together and told them I told Efe, the bully, to take off his shirt and bully the 4 boys. And it was so magical. And then I knew that those were the actors for me. And putting them on set. When I work with actors, it's a collaboration. I'm not the Oga or the director. I love it when the actors, we talk about things, and when they bring in things to the script. A lot of the things that these guys brought into the script were from their own experiences. So what I think my job is to do is to create a space where these actors are comfortable, and I think actors are very vulnerable. Create a space where they're comfortable and confident to pour out their inner emotions into the script without being strict about it. And that was what happened. So I just let them. What I would do is just say, okay, that's a little bit too much, tone it down. Why don't we do this here? And they will bring different suggestions, and it was just, I just let them play in the space, and that was what brought out the natural reaction.
I think one thing I really loved with the film was the subtlety with which it treats issues, because oftentimes a lot of Nigerian films they're very issue heavy, right? And there's so many things you touch on with the backstories, but you also just make it feel like this is their life. So it's not as traumatic as certain things are happening. So there's male sexual abuse going on. There is just poverty in the household and all these sorts of things. You make it feel like this is how we live. We have these traumas, but we keep pushing through life. And then there's the brotherhood and the joy and the friendship in the midst of all the drama that's happening. Because the film is also like about Murphy's Law. It's like the worst thing just keeps happening throughout the whole day as well. I want to know how deliberate that was for you to be sort of really subtle about the issues in the film.
One of the things that I'm very clear about is the film is not just about the 4 boys and the car. It's a story about Lagosians, Africans, Nigerians. There are issues in our lives that we sweep under the carpet. The sexual molestation in the film is something where a lot of this happens. A lot of people are walking around with issues, but it's swept under the carpet and it's back to business. And it's just exploring our lives, our mentalities, how we address issues here in this country. And it's Nigeria, it's Africa, and I wanted to show that. Say for example now, I know of an issue where a girl was being raped by her father and the mother kept it quiet, or a girl had an abortion and it was swept under the carpet. The mother took the girl to have this abortion and it was swept quiet. So it's back to business. So it's exploring our lives here as Africans, and that's why I decided to address these issues this way.
So after showing in numerous festivals, you then finally get it into the cinema. Tell me about that process and what the...
I think it was very heartbreaking for me as a creative to the Nigerian cinema space is not one that supports independent filmmakers. And I was very enthusiastic about my film being released, and I thought that, okay, it would get the same traction that it got in the international community. But it opened my eyes to realize that, to understand that the Nigerian audience has been groomed in a certain way, and with the kind of films that have been released, they have been groomed, and their taste has been built to want a certain kind of film. And I say this because this certain type of Nigerian film, because this same audience will go into the cinemas to watch Aquaman, to watch Spider-Man, to watch other films. But when it comes to Nigerian film, I had to go into that space where, it was a hustle. I had to go into the cinemas and drag customers to watch the film, and it was very heartbreaking because I felt like my film was like pure water. Come and buy pure water. No, not buy pure water. What's your film about? Why is there it's not sweet? Wow. And those were the kind of feedback I was getting, and they were like, why didn't you have known faces on your Was
this what people were telling you?
Yes, people at the cinemas, yes, known. Why don't you have known faces? No, I'm not going to watch it. It's not going to be sweet. And it sort of broke my heart in a certain way, because I was wondering, as a filmmaker, to exist in Nigeria, do I have to compromise my stories for known faces, or compromise my stories just for known faces, or stick with authentic actors that I want to be true to? And it was a big struggle for me. Like, I literally hated going to the cinema to do meet and greet and to draw, people to my film.
What are you working on next?
Wow. I'm very excited about my next project. It's something totally different from Kassala. And it's a movie called Emi, which is the Yoruba word for spirit. And it's based on the premise that all human beings have a still small voice that speaks to us. We either choose to listen to that voice or we ignore it. And the people who listen to this voice end up living fulfilled life. I mean, it's our story. I'm sure you heard the voices start doing this, and even if it's the craziest thing, So I think that it's centered on the life of a mechanic who lives in Ajegule, a really big slum, and he decides to become a contemporary dancer after discovering he has less than 1 year to live because he's dying of cancer. So he drops everything and listens to that still small voice, and he goes through the process of being a dancer. And it's a story about my life. It's a story about everybody working in the creative. I think that Nigeria is one of the most frustrating places because our environment doesn't give you that opportunity to follow your dream, to listen to that voice. And I say that there are a lot of musicians, a lot of artists in the bank, in the corporate world, and it's just showing them a window of what it means to follow your dreams. It's like showing the journey is one of the hardest but most rewarding thing, that even though it's sort of like my story, it's just so you can see and in some ways encourage people to come out. And that's why I really want to make that film, and I'm very excited about it because it's based on the contemporary dancing happening in Lagos now with Kudu Sonikeku, with the dance group in Bariga and all of that. I'm very excited about it. Wow. What song will be the soundtrack to my life? Maybe one song that is just coming to my mind is this Alicia Keys. This girl is on fire. It's just something that's popping. It's coming up. Biggest regret. Wow. Biggest regret. I don't think I have anything.
Why do people say that?
No, because every disappointment is like prepared me for now. Yeah. Say for example, coming back to Nigeria from the US. I don't regret it. It's sort of opened up this door for me. Whatever, the heartbreaks, whatever, prepared me for the love that I have right now. So I don't see them as regrets. I see them, they hurt at that time, but I'm stronger because of them. So I hardly see them as regrets. Piece of advice to my younger self. It will happen. Yeah, don't rush the process. It happens. Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
Why?
Sour and sweet. I answer is because I feel like my best friend right now.
You have hidden sides that we don't know about.
Yes, I have hidden sides that a lot of people don't know about. Do I believe art can change the world? I don't. I think people can change the world. I think there can be art that is very, very, very superficial.
Okay.
And I think that people create art. So an artist that is true to himself, true to his voice, can create works that can change the world, not the art itself. So, yeah.
Well, thank you, Emma, for coming on Culture Diaries. I hope you had fun.
Thank you. Yes, I did. Thank you so much for having me.
Yay.
Yay.
And we have come to the end of this episode of Culture Diaries. Thank you so much to our guest, Ema Edosio-Deelen. Don't forget, you can go to my website. It's WanaWana.net, and you'll find out all the other information you need at the bottom of the screen. But until next time, remember, art is life.